Next speaker, Sri Pinangi Mishra ji.
Thank you, Mr. Chairperson, for giving me the opportunity to present my party's, the Biju Janata Dal's views on this piece of legislation which the learned law minister has brought in for passage in this House. I'm a little surprised that none of my predecessor speakers have expressed any concern about the wording of this bill, the import of this bill, because I think there is some concern in the manner in which the government has brought this bill. And I'm surprised that, including the Congress party, every party has wholeheartedly supported the bill. What does the bill, so I mean, since everybody's spoken about everything else except the bill, I think I should speak a little bit on the bill and try and enlighten the House as to what the bill attempts to do. The government, in its wisdom, had brought about an amendment both in the Supreme Court Judges Salaries Act as well as the High Court Judges Salaries Act to insert Section 16B in the Supreme Court Act and Section 17B in the High Court Judges Act to basically cater to aging judges, judges who reach the age of 80, 85, 90, 95, or after their death, their families. That was the import, that was the idea. Now, the wording at that point was that additional quantum of pension or family pension for Supreme Court judges, High Court judges and their family are entitled to additional quantum from 80 years to less than 85 years, from 85 to less than 90, from 90 to less than. So the word from led to some dispute as to what does this mean. So the Guwahati High Court and the Madhya Pradesh High Court, both High Courts said that from will mean from the day you enter that age. Now, very importantly, it's a writ of mandamus, therefore, and a writ of mandamus was issued to the central government, the Union of India. The Union of India challenged this in the Supreme Court. On the 8th of July 2019, the Chief Justice's Court, 3 judges, where the learned Solicitor General Mr. Tushar Mehta appeared for the Union of India, attempted to have that mandamus set aside, and the Honorable Supreme Court said, delay condoned, having heard learned counsel for the petitioners and on perusing the relevant material, we are not inclined to interfere. The special leave petition is accordingly dismissed. So the Guwahati High Court judgment and the Madhya Pradesh High Court judgment attained finality. And now what does the government want? The government wants to bring a validating act to ensure that Parliament now nullifies the Guwahati High Court and the Madhya Pradesh High Court judgments. That's what that's what the Law Minister wants us to do. I am not able to persuade myself to vote in favor of such an action, with the greatest respect.
The matter has not gone to the Supreme Court? No.
The Supreme Court having already now dismissed the Union's appeal, I think the Union government should in all grace have accepted the mandamus that was issued and have accepted the judgment. Rather than that, you bring in a validating act, and as the Honorable Chairperson, who is very, very knowledgeable in legal matters, knows very well, by a validating act, and this is the law now for the last 50 years, that Parliament cannot nullify a mandamus by an enactment. It would be impermissible legislation exercise, and even an interim direction cannot be reversed by legislative veto. This is a final judgment. These are 2 final judgments of the High Courts. So Parliament is now being persuaded to nullify a mandamus by an enactment by the learned law minister. So I would seriously urge the law minister and my party, the Biju Janata Dal, which is for an independent, vigorous, vibrant judiciary, cannot countenance an action by which an order of the High Court, a final judgment, a final mandamus of a High Court upheld by the Supreme Court is sought to be nullified in this fashion by legislation, by Parliament. I don't think that's the way forward for us, and I think most of my colleagues here who are learned senior advocates, who are advocates, who know the law, would be persuaded to agree with me that this is possibly not a correct course of action. I would urge the government to reconsider, not be churlish in these matters. I think we know that it is very difficult now to get good members, earning members of the bar to become judges, as it is. Lawyers who are earning handsome amounts in private practice do not want to become High Court judges. So you are, in fact, now, what is the signal you are sending out? That you want to slash a year's pension of the judges and their families by doing this. Is that the right signal we are sending out to lawyers who are to be persuaded today? I know for a fact that the Chief Justice of High Courts have to actually call young lawyers into chambers who are in their mid-40s and their late 40s. The Chief Justice has to personally call them and ask them virtually as a favor that, look, this is a public service. This is a duty to the nation. It is enough. You've made enough money for you and your family. Please come and serve the nation. If they are to be called upon to serve the nation, I believe
Pinangi Misraji, 1 second.
I'm
Now,
sorry.
Yeah, we have to extend the time if the House is of the unanimous opinion that we will extend the House up to 8. Agreed? Yes.
Therefore, Mr. Chairman, I would urge the government very seriously that this ought to be relooked at. Particularly, we have a new law minister today, and I'm happy to say that he has sent out all the right signals so far. The fact that 9 judges were appointed to the Supreme Court in one go and very quickly after the collegium had recommended those names sends out a very good signal. 3 of them are lady judges. We have now been fortunate that hopefully we will have the first woman Chief Justice of India when many other countries in the world have had women Chief Justices. So congratulations are in order for the law minister. There has been a very bad stalemate. Not a single Supreme Court judge could be appointed through all of 2020. And that's a very sad state of affairs and the manner in which the collegium has functioned. I'm one with my colleagues who have said that the collegium system has many fault lines. But then again, I want to request the law minister, why doesn't this House, which passed the last NJAC, the National Judicial Appointment Commission, unanimously, this House, the Rajya Sabha, accepting, God bless his soul, Mr. Ram Jethmalani, who in his wisdom was always a dissenter, except Mr. Jethmalani, everybody else, 750 odd MPs, voted for the NJAC. I believe, and I think the law minister will agree with me, many of my colleagues will agree,
20 state legislative assemblies.
the Supreme Court would have actually upheld it, but for a little tweaking. We know what happened in the Supreme Court. If the government had not dug its heels in and gone hell for leather in the Supreme Court, if they had been a little more accommodating, I think the Supreme Court would have upheld this legislation. But even today, there is no harm in us going back to the going back with a fresh piece of legislation, with a fresh NJAC, in order to cure 1 or 2 of the defects which the Supreme Court felt. And it's all well known what had happened with the NJAC, why it was struck down, 4:1. I think the government, in its wisdom, should bring a fresh piece of legislation today, which will be passed. Just two other issues. And I think the law minister is mindful of this. We have, fortunately today, a Chief Justice of India who's truly willing to take all stakeholders on board. He's willing to take all the players on board. He's going in for very wide consultation, and he and the law minister are in perfect sync with each other. So therefore, this is the right time, I believe, that the whole problem that this nation has of vacancy of judges, and your answer to the Rajya Sabha the other day, Mr. Law Minister, was alarming, that there are 406 High Court judgeships today which are vacant. I mean, that is an astonishing number. It's almost a 40% vacancy. How can this country survive on 40% vacancy when there are 56.42 lakh arrears in the high courts? And we are on 40% vacancy. I mean, somebody is answerable for this. And I think somebody as young and dynamic as you must persuade the judiciary to set aside their differences and push names, and names which are already, I don't know how many names are pending with the government. I believe more than 100 names are pending with the government. I don't want to go into individual names. Many of my colleagues in Parliament today have mentioned individual names. I don't believe judges by individual names should be mentioned on the floor of the House. That's probably not the correct course of action. But please, for God's sake, try and clear, regardless of what your personal anxieties sometimes are in these matters of X, Y, and Z. Try and clear as many names as you can as quickly as possible, because 56.42 lakh High Court cases, arrears, and there are, it's an astonishing number, there are 4 crore cases in the lower courts. We are supposed to, the other distinction that we have vis-a-vis China is that we are a nation governed by the rule of law. That's why we say India is an attractive destination, because there is a rule of law here that obtains. What is the rule of law if there are going to be 4 crore cases in the trial courts and 56.7 lakh cases in the high courts and almost 70,000 cases in the Supreme Court? So therefore, Mr. Law Minister, you have to proactively push for vacancies in the high courts and the Supreme Courts now to be filled up. The other thing I have to tell you, and I've been saying this from 1996, the last point, Mr. Chairman, that the age of judges must be at par. My friend, the late Mr. Arun Jaitley, when he was in opposition, and of course he did nothing when he was in power, but when he was in opposition, he said the right thing. He said, why don't the judges' ages all become 67? The Supreme Court and High Court make their age 67, but then don't have post-retirement sinecures. Let the judges elect. If they wish to serve on a tribunal, if they wish to serve on any other institution, then let them elect. Let them go and serve there, but up to the age of 67. So make it at par. Plus, you will then truly, because the High Court is a constitutional court under our system. The High Courts today, unfortunately, because as Justice Sri Krishna very trenchantly said, that most Chief Justices and senior judges of High Courts are looking northwards, towards the Supreme Court. So therefore, now that is a very sad state of affairs. You are reducing constitutional courts, therefore, to subservient courts, which are constantly looking for approval to the Supreme Court. Therefore, have all judges retire at 67. Let judges then ensure that they elect whichever position they wish to serve on. If they wish to serve in the High Court or the Supreme Court or a tribunal or any other institution, then they should be allowed to do so, but they let them elect. So I would therefore, on these terms, I would urge the Law Minister to firstly kindly reconsider this piece of legislation, because I find this legislation is clearly probably absolutely unconstitutional between you and me. I really don't believe that this Parliament has the jurisdiction to pass this piece of legislation as a validating legislation, because the Supreme Court having rejected your SLPs, there is no way that Parliament should be party to this. Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman, for having given me the opportunity.
Thank you, Pinaki Mishra, for the brilliant speech. Thank you very much.